Brian Froud's fairies are represented by two separate and equally important groups. The ones who like to talk about love and relationships and will often be very vague at the expense of leaving you lost, and the ones that dig deep and rip your heart out. These are my experiences. All right, so Brian Froud's Fairies. I've had this one, or a version of this one. Like, this is a newer one that I have, like it's a few years old, but I've had this one since it was first released, probably in the year 2000. So that's like 20 years. I've been working with these guys for 20 years. This is always, if I could have only one oracle deck, I would have to say, oh no, it has to be two. It has to be Brian Froud's Fairies and my soul cards. These were lent to me by a friend. And, yeah. And let me tell you, these are two separate and equally important yet distinctly different groups. So I'll start with the one I know really well. These are Brian Froud's Fairies. These are earthy. There's earth. They're earthy. They're, I don't know. They're very grounded. These are earth spirits. These spirits are best described as assholes. And the reason being is that they don't pull any punches. All right? It's like these guys, you ask a question and they will answer you to the full extent of their ability. They literally leave no stone unturned. They often leave me like winded from their reply. And unbelievable. Other people who have this deck have described how they go missing. Mine don't go missing. Mine don't go missing because I keep them in a bag in a specific place. And to be honest, I don't disturb them unless it's really important. Imagine, these are cards. But they're more than cards. Anyone who owns this deck knows that these are more than cards. There's something about Brian Faerie. I'm in a completely different universe right now. Sorry. Brian Froud's Fairies. There's something about these guys that the cards, they vibrate. The cards have sound. The cards feel alive. No deck, no other deck can be described this way. And for me, Brian Froud's Fairies, the original, this is earth and water. So elementally, these are earth and water. Regardless of what's depicted, you know, like regardless of the depiction of the fairies, no, it's, I'm not going by how they look, I'm going by how they feel. And these definitely feel like earth and water. Now, just because there's the deck, the Heart of Fairy Oracle, doesn't mean you can't use these to ask questions about relationships. Because honestly, they'll answer you questions about relationships. They'll answer questions about anything, provided, of course, you're willing to hear what they have to say. And that's the caveat. They're willing to give you the straight dope. But you have to be receptive. You have to be willing to hear it. Otherwise, you're gonna feel like they're taunting you and they're making fun of you, or they're mocking you, or you're gonna, if you feel like they're mocking you, it's because you're not prepared to hear what they have to say. Because these guys, they speak their mind, and when it comes to calling you out on your bullshit, they go straight for the jugular. This deck, if you can have only one, this is the oracle deck you need, provided that that's what you're looking for. If you're looking for affirmations, no. These guys, they're not going to hold your hand and tell you to be positive and only think positive thoughts. These guys, they go there. They go to all those deep, dark places. They go, they go where you want to go. They take you where you need to go. This, I know someone, they only read with this deck. And I totally get it. I totally get it. I could see how if this was the first deck I ever purchased, I would never even go near tarot. This would be it. This would be my card deck. So, Brian Froud's Fairies. So this was Brian Froud did the artwork, and it's Jessica Macbeth that wrote the text. And it has a completely different feel than this one by Brian and Wendy Froud, Heart of Faerie. These guys are all air and fire. These guys are volatile. These guys are extremely vague. These guys could be just frustrating because they could be extremely vague and they can be extremely tricky. And honestly, the first ever question I asked this oracle, it gave me an answer that at first I thought, what? And then when I sat with that answer, I went through a lot of emotions with the answer it gave me. Because I wasn't sure if it was describing the situation. I wasn't sure if their answer was describing me in that situation. I wasn't sure if the answer was describing the other person, the other party involved in the situation. And it's still up in the air for me. These have a completely different energy. Like I said, air and fire. And I have to tell you that if I only had this one, I don't feel like I would need to hang on to them. What I'm trying to say is that, honestly, if you can have only one of these, and this one's out of print, so this comes in handy, I would recommend this one. If this one was still in print, I would still recommend this one if you only wanted one, if you could only have one. These guys are compatible, I think. I don't know, because I'm a fire sign, and I feel that these are very airy, and so these are very, very airy in element, and there's fire in the feel of their energy. And this is regardless of what's depicted in the card, because some of these images are very earthy because they're fairies, right? But for me, very, very trickster. I find this to be more trickster energy, far more trickster energy than these guys. These guys, I don't find they're tricksters. I find they're jerks. You know what I mean? It's like, here you are, you're bearing your soul to them, you're asking this question it's very highly emotionally charged, and they make fun of you a little bit. You know what I'm saying? It's like or you approach them and you have a certain preconceived notion of how this situation is going to turn out that you're asking them to predict or to give you some clarity or guidance, and they totally cut you down. They knock you down from your high horse. These guys are solid, earthy, and they delve deep. They delve deep into your consciousness to dig stuff out that, they find the soft spot to stick the knife in. But it's always healing. If you're open to it, it's always healing. These guys, they're just as tricky and they're just as volatile as relationships are, especially when, I'm not talking about like, a long-term relationship. These guys are like dating. They actually feel, oh my God, they totally feel like you're dating. And you get to know. I think that's what it is. With these guys, you get to know them. They let, once they approve, they let you in and you get to know them. I feel like I know them. Not these guys. These are the beautiful people. That's what I call this deck. These are the beautiful people. They have not let me into their club. Obviously, I guess because I'm probably not the correct energy for this group, right? It's like I'm middle-aged. I'm in a long-term relationship. This is a more youthful energy. And I don't mean age-wise. I mean maturity level. I mean the newness of a relationship, the newness of meeting someone new. These guys, they love talking about the games people play. They love messing things up. They love getting involved and they love getting involved in your business, is what I'm trying to say. And it's almost that there's you get a sense of they're totally in sync with the games people play. Whether it's in a new romantic relationship, whether it's dealing with people in a business level, these guys they'll make a comment. You know what I mean? Like you're reading it from the book, right? But when you draw a card from this deck, and you're asking about, let's say, it's case in point. So I'm just, because I don't have someone in mind, I'm just gonna say, how to best deal with someone who's duplicitous. This is the kind of questions that this deck really likes to talk about. The Queen of Hearth and Home. This is how to deal with someone who is duplicitous. Let me find it in the book for you. And the way the book is set up is takes a little getting used to, but there's a it's okay. There's table of contents which I should be using right now. The Queens, page 9. I'm sorry I'm making you wait. I should have been prepared, but I wanted to do it. I wanted to do it live to show you that I asked how to best deal with someone who's duplicitous. Right? Because I'm thinking, well, this is their thing. Welcome, courtesy, and graciousness. She holds the mask of living flame in her hand. This is the eternal hearth fire. In ancient times, people would carry an ember from the hearth they were leaving to their new dwelling place. From the hearth they were leaving to their new dwelling place. Sorry about that. They carried this link from their past to their future. The Queen of Hearth and Home carries with her the ability to make a home in the moment, in the now, wherever she is. She passes this ability on to you. It is important to be at home in any situation. To create a home when you invite people into your space, whether at a table in a restaurant, a desk at work, a seat next to you on a bus or plane, or in your own home. The ability to make someone feel welcome when entering your space is a high gift indeed. Brian says that he always stands up when signing books for people because he feels that he is inviting them into his home, and he wouldn't sit while people were standing in his presence. It is his way of creating a home wherever he is and whenever he interacts with people. When this card appears, remember that you are in the presence of a great queen. She gives you the ability to be gracious and create a home wherever you are in any relationship. How to deal with people who are duplicitous. Stand your ground. Be gracious. Be sincere. Invite them in. But you know who they are. See, this was... So then I'm going to ask... Same question from these guys. How to deal with people who are duplicitous. How to deal with people who are duplicitous. How should we deal with people who are duplicitous? And I got the Bright Mother. It's not lost on me that she's showing us her behind. All right. Thank goodness these cards are numbered. 16. Okay. Because this is quite a dense book. Creativity, nurturing, productivity, intimacy, and sheltering. They gave me the same cards. I got the same exact answer from both. And that's another thing I noticed when using these. So this one gave me the exact same answer. I just want to read the little extra bit that this one gives. So I'm not going to read the whole, because this one, literally, it's a book. When the Bright Mother is present in a reading, she speaks of a time of fertility, creativity, and nurturing of ourselves or of others. She might indicate marriage or the birth of a child or a deepening of any kind of a relationship. She also speaks of giving one's all to life, not holding back. She is like a cornucopia, pouring forth abundance. This may be a time to put the needs of others first, taking care of yourself later. Patience may be needed for the process being discussed. Consider what you have. Acknowledge the people and things in your life, good, bad, and indifferent. This consideration is not to judge, approve, or reject, but merely to recognize what is present in your life. These are your present fulfillments, the things you have created for yourself, drawing upon the power of unity and the singers, or not, as the case may be. Once you have looked clearly at what is present in your life, you may want to ask yourself what you want to change. This one gave me a nice, straight, kind of, also, it was a bit of a vague answer, but you know, it was workable. I see what it's saying. It's saying, you know what, just go along with it. This one said, didn't talk about how to deal with people that are duplicitous. This just said, you know, so just deal with it. Just be yourself. This one, I don't know if you caught it when I read it. This one made me pause because it's basically saying you need to look at yourself a little bit. This one made me feel like, okay, well, you asked about when dealing with duplicitous people. Are you faking it? Are you the duplicitous person? You see what I'm saying? The difference between these two. This one gave me something. This one gave me advice. And it was pretty surface. This one left me feeling a little uncomfortable because it's asking me a question. So if I were to, am I happy I own both? Well, yeah. Oh my God. For sure. Because my two fairy decks are right here. I actually ended up rehoming all my other fairy decks. And I had accumulated quite a few. Both tarot and oracle, but mainly all my fairy oracle decks have been rehomed because I really only need these two. And you know, depending on what I'm needing in terms of an answer. I hope this is the 4th time I attempt to record this video. There was always some kind of interference with the other 3. One of them, for whatever reason, didn't even record. So that'll be interesting when I check to see if this one recorded. I would get tongue-tied. I would have difficulty expressing my thoughts. I'm not feeling 100% confident that I was able to communicate how I feel, how the difference between these two decks. But I want to say that if you're feeling sore that you couldn't get that, you know, you missed out on this one because it's out of print, don't worry. This is amazing. If you own this one and you don't quite understand what it is about it that you find off-putting, it's air and fire. It's very volatile, and it's not very. These answers are never going to be very grounding. These are never going to be, you're never going to get an answer from these guys that is truly nurturing. You want nurturing, you get it from these because they give you the hard truth, like a really, you know, tough love. But these guys really know how to navigate situations, how to navigate on the superficial. These guys are masters. They're masters at navigating the superficial but knowingly navigating the superficial. All right, I hope that made sense. And I'm so happy I have both. I enjoy both of them very much. Just a little, you know, if you want just a little bit of, like, you know, specs. Both beautifully bound hardback books. This one's thicker than this one. Yeah. So the Fairies Oracle is thicker than the Heart of Fairy. Cardstock. Okay, I've maligned this cardstock a lot. I think it's because, but you know what? I think I'm being a jerk. I think I'm being a jerk because actually having had other cards with worse cardstock than this, these are really good compared to some that were, like, you know, really thin. You know, like, look, it doesn't. There you go, right? So, and it doesn't stay that bent, right? So it's pretty decent. I think edging them really helped. I edged them with one of those, doesn't smell like it now, it's been a while, probably a couple of years since I edged it. I edged it with like one of those scented markers that I got at Staples that just matched the color. It was like a caramel scented marker from Staples. And I did receive, the cards were loose in the box when I received them in the mail. They had one card was damaged. I contacted the publisher, asking if they could replace that card. They sent me a brand new deck, which I gave to my daughter. And I'm almost certain they even sent me a replacement for that card. If they didn't, I have a card that's got Scotch tape on it, and I don't care. I love my decks. I use them. I have a few decks that have been Scotch taped, reinforced, whatever. All right, so that's the cardstock. This is like thin. It riffle shuffles really well, and although I gave this a really hard time, the cardstock a really hard time, they still look pretty good, and I use this deck a lot. This one though, oh my god, this is thicker cardstock. It's beautifully weighted. Like, oh, this is much heavier. This is much heavier. This one's heavier than this deck. And it just feels nice in your hands. And I love the card backs on both. The art style is similar, but again, the art style on both decks is similar because it's the same artist, but you could tell that he's channeling two different kinds of energies. So this was it. I hope this was helpful. I hope it was coherent. I hope I was able to communicate to you how I feel these two decks are different. And similar at the same time. You know what I mean? It's like I find that they're, I use my Brian Froud's Fairies for everything, including relationships. And honestly, I use Heart of Fairy equally for relationships and other matters. So it's not like they're not like, this one's not really pigeonholed like, you know, you would tend to think from looking at the guidebook. Yeah, so that's it. I love them both. Again, like I said, they won, and the rest of my Fairy Oracles are gone. All right, people, thank you so much for tuning in with me today. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.